Jillian Michaels posted on Twitter. She said, I want to address why I chose to step out of the most recent segment on Her Take. I have sat through many conversations that were highly critical of Israel, and I've never shied away from hearing different viewpoints on legitimate topics. However, I do not want to participate in discussions that center on unfounded conspiracy theories that could inadvertently stoke the fires of anti-Semitism. I think it's dangerous, irresponsible, and not something I'm willing to participate in. Yes, this is the issue. This is exactly the issue, is that they're just asking questions, they're just throwing a bunch of random shit out there, and they're not actually debunking it, they're not actually being critical of it, they're not actually giving explanations of it, they're just saying, yeah, I think that's really suspicious, and also, you know what else is really suspicious, and then just throwing out a bunch more stuff. That's all they were doing. They were just throwing out the most deranged bullshit conspiracy theories, and then we had to stop each time and go pull up fucking articles and read the fact checks on these to see that, like, oh, the book was not actually posted before he was killed, and that we don't actually have any confirmation that the Dairy Queen photo is real, and we don't have any reason to believe that the Dairy Queen photo is like conflicting with what we know about the evidence right now. And like, we had to keep stopping and going and like checking on things because they didn't give us details on it. They didn't tell us about it. They were not critical of it at all. We had to go find about the summit that where supposedly they grilled Charlie Kirk and tried to make him in favor of Israel again. And the apparently, again, from people who were there, just didn't happen. So like, we had to stop and go do their fucking jobs for them when they planned these segments. They planned the segments. They planned what they were going to talk about. They planned the clips. They planned everything. And then all they did is just throw that shit out there and then just say, wow, that's really suspicious, isn't it? Yeah, that's really crazy, isn't it? This one guy on Twitter, he said that Netanyahu actually offered Charlie Kirk $50 million to be pro-Israel again. Isn't that weird? Isn't that? Yeah, that's suspicious. Yeah, that is suspicious. That's suspicious that Netanyahu would do that. Yeah. So just a random guy on fucking Twitter said this. What the fuck? What? There's no reason to believe this. What the fuck are you guys doing? Why are you guys just throwing this shit out there? I expressed deep concern prior to the show with the other hosts. But when it became clear that the segment would proceed despite my objections, I felt the best choice for me was to leave the segment. To Anna Kasparian. Whew. I have publicly sung your praises. I fought for you to get the job on Her Take. For you to make this shitty YouTube post for clicks is sad. I posted it below for you. Hope those AdSense dollars pay you the money you're after. While I have appreciated your upset over what is happening in Gaza, is it possible that when you start saying things on your content like, you think you're God's chosen people when you behave like demons, it might be crossing the line when almost every episode of Her Take has to bash Israel, it might be overkill? When we have to discuss conspiracy theories about Israel's connection to hideous events like 9/11 or Charlie Kirk's murder, it could be border on irresponsible and dangerous. Sorry if I wasn't game. You're a real gem. Keep it up. And this is like, yes, like, again, Anna Kasparian has been making a huge deal about the Israelis, the dancing Israelis, and their connection to the 9/11. Planes flying into buildings and all of these weird things and weird, oh, it's so suspicious and isn't that weird and isn't this odd, and just like over and over and over on Twitter, on Her Take, on TYT, over and over and over, just throwing out all of this random shit and just saying, isn't that suspicious? Isn't that weird? But it's suspicious though, right? Isn't it?
Voiced some concern about.
Where's your proof that $150 million was offered from Bibi Netanyahu?
No, I'm referring.
Where is the proof?
Please do not get into
No, because I didn't want to cover this, and you guys insisted. And I told you cover this I'm going to rip you apart. Where is the proof?
We're not
that
saying that it
Bibi
happened.
Netanyahu
We're really
offered
not
Charlie
saying that it
$150 million. This is not for me. I'm not interested in this.
Okay,
I love you
know.
guys.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Let's be good.
I
Let's
have
be good
zero
about precious
interest
Israel. Let the
in
country
fucking
committing a
every
genocide.
show.
Yeah. Well, as you just saw from that video, Jillian Michaels, who co-hosts Her Take along with me, Amy Dangerfield, and Lindy Lee, quit with her and essentially did so while we were live. Now, keep in mind, Jillian Michaels was the lead host of that show, so she abandoned it while we were airing live. And I want to explain exactly.
While I do think that it was weird for her to like walk off like that, like it might have been best for her to just sit there quietly and wait for the next segment to start. The issue is, again, one, they interrupted her every fucking time she started talking. Like, Anna talked more than anybody on there and also kept interrupting her and being like, let me talk. And made a big deal about the fact that, like, when she interrupted Anna, that this was, like, so mean and so rude. But then they sat there afterwards and talked a bunch of shit about her. And that was also just super unprofessional. And so, like, it was across the board, just a bunch of nutcases sitting there being insanely unprofessional and catty. And, like, that's not, Jillian is no exception to that in this case. But, yes, they can't make a big deal about, like, how rude it is for her to walk off when they sat there afterwards talking shit about her.
What happened from my point of view, while doubling down on what I believe about some of the rumors and some of the theories floating around about Charlie Kirk's assassination and these allegations that Israel, played a role in his assassination. Now, I want to be very clear right off the bat. I do not believe that there is any evidence drawing a direct connection between Charlie Kirk's assassination and Israel. As everyone knows, I am not someone who holds back when it comes to criticizing Israel, but I think the truth matters. And if there's no evidence, I just think it's super irresponsible to, preemptively place blame on Israel for Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's crazy. Now, that is an entirely different story from what I have talked about on this show. And that has to do.
Bro, that's all they did. That's all they did was just bring up shit that didn't have any evidence attached to it. And then just sat there saying how suspicious it was. That is all they did. That's it. That's all they did. They may have said, oh, I don't believe this is happening. But if all you do is put out things that you show and say, like, yeah, did you know that Netanyahu actually was trying to get Israel to come back to being pro-Israel, and that Netanyahu was trying to pay him billions of dollars or millions of dollars to come back, and that there were Ackman had him on a retreat for a week, grilling him, trying to force him to be pro-Israel again. And did you know that the person that they're blaming the shooting on actually doesn't seem to make sense, and that it doesn't seem as though it could even possibly be him? And did you know, and did you know this, and did you know that? And they're just throwing out a bunch of shit. That's it. Like, this is insane that she's going to sit here and gaslight us afterwards and say, like, oh, I actually think it's really irresponsible to put out information that is unverified. That's what you did. That's all you did. That's it. That is all you did. You did not debunk the evidence. You did not say there's nothing backing this up. You did not say that we haven't seen anything to verify this. You didn't say they didn't say anything. They didn't say anything to be critical of the evidence that they were putting out there for everybody else, except that I'm not saying that Israel was behind this. I'm not saying that. Okay, but you're still blatantly like leading your audience to believe that, because you're just throwing all evidence towards them that says that is the case, and not throwing any evidence towards them that says that it's not the case. None. No evidence that this is not the case. Tons of evidence that it is the case, though. Like, what the fuck?
With what Charlie Kirk was personally experiencing in regard to Zionist pressure in the last few months of his life. Now, what I refer to when I'm referring to that Zionist pressure, I'm specifically talking about the fact that apparently behind the scenes, and Charlie Kirk himself confirmed this in a conversation with Megyn Kelly, he felt that he was being smeared.
Do you think it's possible that they were going to be more critical of the conspiracies after playing the Fuentes clip? But they weren't. What do you mean? Why do you say they were going to? We watched it. They didn't. Why do you say they were going to? Are they not allowed, Freddie? Are they not allowed to do it? Is that what happened? Were they not allowed to say it? Like, what do you mean they were going to? They could. Why didn't they do it then? The show got derailed? They're the ones who derailed it. What do you mean? She walked off. They could have moved on and played the fucking clip and then gone over it. They didn't do that. But again, Freddie, all they were doing was showing, and this is all that they were doing. They were going to show Nick Fuentes saying he doesn't believe that Israel is behind this. And then they were going to say, yeah, if Nick Fuentes doesn't believe that Israel is behind this, then yeah, I don't believe it either. I mean, if the fucking guy who believes Israel's behind everything believes Israel's behind this, then yeah, I don't believe it either. But it doesn't, again, as I just explained, that they did say they don't believe Israel is behind the murder. They did say that. They didn't do anything to debunk the evidence that they gave to their audience, though. They didn't do anything to question the evidence, to be critical of it in any way. So who cares if I show you a ton of evidence that leads you to one obvious conclusion, and that at the end, I don't tell you why I don't believe that evidence. I don't tell you why that evidence is incorrect. I don't tell you why I don't have faith in that evidence. I just say at the end, yeah, I don't think that's true. Moving on. That is not a responsible way of going through this, while she's sitting here talking about like what she thinks is responsible to do.
As an anti-Semite, which he clearly wasn't, because of the fact that he included Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson at the America Fest, conference. And during that conference, Dave Smith, debated somebody on Israel, and I thought it was a great debate. I enjoyed it. And then Tucker Carlson, of course, gave that speech in which he, floated the idea that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad asset. Okay. So I think that if you're going to be part of a group of people, and as Charlie Kirk very much was, that purports to want to be inclusive of all points of view, debate all points of view, not try to censor people because of wrongthink, then yeah, you should be inclusive of voices like
censor people. See, she keeps doing this. Censor people. Who tried to censor you? This is all she does, is just play victim about this crap and act like everybody's stopping her. Nobody's stopping you. What is wrong with her?
Like Tucker Carlson's. I mean, he's one of the top conservatives in this country in terms of media. And Dave Smith, who is not as big as Tucker Carlson, but he's been really making a name for himself by debating this very issue. And so I love the fact that he included those voices, but apparently some of the donors behind Turning Point USA did not feel the same. Okay, fair enough. Now
that she's backing it up, I still haven't seen any evidence that the donors were stopping them from doing this.
$20. Israel is behind this tip. Netanyahu send his love. Sincerely, Soros. Hashtag Tom Hearts Israel.
Thank you, Aaron M. Sound, for the $20 dono. Did I miss it? Did she show evidence of the donors pressuring him? Did I miss it? Why did you say that, Jamestown? Did that happen? Did I black out for a minute? What evidence did she show to back this up, Jamestown?
The segment that we were doing, okay, about the conspiracies, yes, did mention the conspiracy about Israel allegedly, having something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination.
The conspiracy. It mentioned it. It just mentioned it. After we just went over all the reasons for why we don't think Tyler Robinson is actually the assassin. And then we just mentioned, it just got dropped.
Every single person on that panel said that they do not believe it. But that was getting conflated with something else.
Charlie was getting lots of feedback from very nervous Jews because Tucker, like Anna, is totally conspiracy-brained, Zog posting, and there is a split within MAGA that was being discussed in public and in private. No conspiracy at all. Well, I mean, again, but where's the evidence of the? I said that I still have not seen anybody who was actually critical of him for talking to people like Dave Smith. I don't know who was calling him anti-Semitic for this. That was the claim, is that they were calling him anti-Semitic and that they said he's not allowed to talk to Dave Smith. I don't know who said this. And then they're also saying over and over that he was getting pressured by his donors to not talk to those people, and that he was becoming like anti-Semitic, and that they were trying to make him less pro-Gaza and blah blah blah. I haven't seen any evidence for that either. You're correct, Tom. There's no evidence of shady funders making threats, etc. But there were absolutely Jews making threats, etc. But there were, about platforming Tucker and Dave. This is true. Well, hold on. I'm sure that there's always going to be people who are upset that they're going to platform anti-Semites and people like that. Wait, Jamestown Ghetto, you just said that I was about to turn her off now that she's backing it up. And then when I ask you to back up your claims, you turn off. What the fuck happened? I just asked you what the fuck you were talking about and you disappeared. What the fuck? You just disappeared like that? Like, you're sitting here, oh, Tom's about to turn it off now that she's backing this up. I ask you what she backed up and you turn off? That's my alt I use to troll you. Your alt's about to get fucking banned in a second if it doesn't come up with some answers pretty quick.
Having something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. Every single person on that panel said that they do not believe it. But that was getting conflated with something else. And the conflation had to do with the pressure that Charlie Kirk was facing. So as this conversation was happening, people are speaking over each other. It's pretty chaotic. And I thought in real time what was going on was that Jillian was under the impression that we're about to like throw Israel under the bus as the assassins. And that she was conflating that with the story that I do believe has credibility, and that's that Charlie Kirk is facing pressure from, Zionist donors. Okay.
The story that has credibility. Again, where's the credibility from? Where's the evidence? In Jamestown, if you're back, I would love to hear. You said that she's backing up her claims now. Where did she back them up? Where did that happen? No, she referenced the conversation that Seth Dillon confirmed happened. He only didn't confirm Kirk was threatened. Charlie said on his own show, he's been told he can't criticize Israel, dog. Okay, I first off, believing fucking Charlie Kirk is already problematic, but who was the guy who wrote the article that we read? Josh Hammer. Okay, so this is from Josh Hammer, and Josh Hammer said that he was there and that they had tons of conversations. One of them happened to be about Israel, and it was not like pressuring him to move in that direction, but more about like his anti Muslim position. I think they made it sound like it was the exact opposite. Wait, so you don't take his own words now? Isn't that the issue? What he said was coming from Israel? I have no idea what you're talking about. When the fuck did I ever take him in his own words? First off, I don't know what you're talking about as far as him saying that. Secondly, I don't know when I was ever treating Charlie Kirk like an honest person. I don't know where you got this from.
But then upon reflecting on this Her Take segment, I realized that no, Jillian wanted to not deny.
You can watch Kirk say on his own show that we're not allowed to criticize Israel. Yes, that doesn't mean anything. That is a meaningless statement. I don't know where you've been. I've been watching you in the chat as I've been sitting here talking about the fact that all of these fucking losers keep saying that they're not allowed to criticize Israel, and there's nothing to back that up. There's no reason for them to say this. It is just a dog whistle. It is just a meaningless fucking statement to say otherwise. All it is them just saying that that people aren't allowed to criticize us for our bullshit way of criticizing Israel. That's what they're saying. They're saying other people are not supposed to criticize them, and that if people criticize them for it, that now they're not allowed to criticize. That's what they're saying. That this is stifling their free speech if people criticize their speech. That's what they're saying.
That story as well. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. So So she wanted to basically convey that Kirk was still very much supportive of Israel, which is absolutely true. Take a look.
He's saying he's being criticized for giving an audience to people like Dave Smith. He is not saying that he is changing his mind and thinks the Jews are evil. Like,
no, he wasn't changing his mind.
But I want to be real clear here.
No, but
because I think this is dangerous, and I want to be deadly accurate if we're gonna have this conversation. So that's what he was talking about. It's about the fact that Dave Smith, he gave him an audience at Turning Point, and he was being criticized for having people who didn't agree, like Tucker, on the stage. He wasn't saying, so I have changed my mind here and I'm being attacked.
So basically, he's getting this pressure from donors, which led to that meeting in the Hamptons with Bill Ackman, because Bill Ackman apparently wasn't happy with it either. But you guys also have to understand that there is a trend now with young conservatives who are not supportive of Israel or not as supportive as previous generations. So at this point, I'm under the assumption that we're all on the same page, because you just heard Jillian Michaels repeat what I believe, right? That Charlie Kirk was facing backlash. He didn't like the backlash. He was public about the fact he didn't like that backlash as he was speaking to Megyn Kelly on her show. Okay, fair enough. Now, at one point, the claim that pro-Israel donors had offered Kirk.
See, this is the problem too, is that every time, instead of them ever when people criticize them for their bullshit criticisms and for their poor reporting on this, for their irresponsible way of talking about these issues, instead of them ever backing up their reporting, instead of them ever saying, no, here's why it does make sense. Here's why I am correct. Here's why this is okay. Here's why this is responsible. Instead of ever doing that, they always just turn themselves into victims and do this whole oh, I'm not even allowed to do this. And this is the conservative grift. This is exactly the playbook for conservatives, is anytime you get any pushback on any little thing, you say you're being censored. You're not allowed to talk about this. They're coming after you. They're stopping you. It's always this conspiracy that people are trying to stop you or something, when in reality, other people are just also engaging in their free speech and saying that they think what it is that you're doing is bullshit. They're criticizing you, and you could defend your criticisms, but you don't. They never do. They never do this.
Kirk and turning.
Tom, what claim did Anna make that you disagree with in regards to Kirk and Israel? I've watched you in the chat. You've been here as I've been explaining it. I saw you say that you didn't understand it, so I went through the entire thing. I don't know why, and then you acted like after I explained it that you still didn't know what the criticism was. At this point, you might just have to rewind it and go through it, because I don't want to go through the whole hour again. But I literally just explained it just now. I've explained it numerous times since you've been here. She keeps saying that there's pressure from donors. She hasn't shown any evidence of this. She's imagining people stopping her from talking about things that don't actually exist. It's a lie. She's making shit up. She hasn't shown a shred of evidence for anybody stopping her from talking about anything. And then she's strawmanning the actual criticisms against her and lying about them and saying, again, that people are stopping her from talking. Those are three of the things that she's lying about.
Point, a $150 million cash infusion as a way of influencing him came up. And, Jillian thinks that the claim is spurious, and I haven't seen hard evidence. For now, there have been rumors about that, but she is right that there isn't hard evidence of it. And she was very stuck on this point. Okay, so let's take a look at that part of the conversation.
Where's your proof that $150 million was offered from Bibi Netanyahu?
No, I'm referring.
Where is the proof?
Please do not get angry.
No, because I didn't want to cover this, and you guys insisted. And I told you, cover the. I'm gonna rip you apart. Where is the proof?
We're not
that
saying that
Bibi
it
Netanyahu
happened. We're really
offered
not
Charlie
saying that it
$150 million.
Jillian,
so we're not. So
what we're reporting on is
now
people in the marketplace, what they're saying. This is a discussion that's happening literally everywhere. We would be remiss if we didn't cover it to debunk it.
This conversation.
It's
over a week.
It's still pretty prevalent.
Is a week old.
It's still going on, Jillian.
Okay, well, nevertheless, where is the proof that actually happened?
I just said, according to this guy's reporting, he was offered $150 million.
Okay,
that wasn't also corroborated.
Yeah, all I said was according to this guy's reporting. I didn't say that it was wrong. I didn't say that it was right either, though. So I just said that the reporting exists. That's all.
By Candace?
It was corroborated by Candace, and not only that, by Nick.
And also
Okay, because that's, listen, I like Candace. She has, people from his own team have said he has not seen her in years.
And yet last year they were on tour together.
Okay, no one has reported that Benjamin Netanyahu personally has offered or had offered Turning Point USA $150 million. There was reporting that pro-Zionist donors offered a cash infusion and that Charlie Kirk rejected that, along with Benjamin Netanyahu's trip. He offered a trip for Charlie Kirk to visit Israel again. Now, we all know what those trips to Israel are all about. It's basically re-education camp. Don't you know better than that? You shouldn't be critical of, I mean, he wasn't even really all that critical of Israel, to be honest with you. He didn't want to invade Iran. I obviously...
Yeah, like she starts off like acting like this is, they are correct. There's not like concrete evidence of this. We don't know for sure. And then now she's treating it like it's real. And she's like, we all know what this is, okay? We all know. And this is, there's sources who are saying this, and like this is, they're not real sources. Some random person on fucking Twitter just said this. Some random person on Twitter just said this. They didn't say where they got the information from. They didn't say why they were saying it. They didn't say how they know. They didn't say anything about it. She is right back to just pushing this message again, instead of ever explaining why she doesn't actually believe it and why it's wrong or anything like that. This is so stupid. I feel like you're being biased. I feel like if we did the same exact thing about black people, no, sorry, let me correct that. I know for a fact, after having conversations with you, that if we take the way that people talk about Israel and turn it towards black people, you will disagree with them. We've had this conversation twice now. You believe that this is dog whistles when it happens to black people, and then when it happens to Jewish people, it's just, oh, we're just being biased and we're just being weird and we're just not we're not giving them credit and blah, blah, blah. This is the same thing that literally happens with the way that people talk about black people and dog whistles and shit. Charlie Kirk's Israel views leave conservatives feuding. Charlie Kirk's assassination at a college event in Utah on September 10th shook America, but united his conservative supporters in grief. Barely a week after his death, however, some supporters were grappling with conflicting narratives about his changing stance on Israel and trading accusations that mirror a wider debate on whether dissenting views are being silenced. Candace Owens, a prominent right-wing podcaster and former communications director at Turning Point USA, the conservative youth organization. What the fuck? I've clicked close ad 3 times now, and it's not closing. Okay. Made the most explosive claim. On Monday, she alleged that billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, a vocal supporter of Israel, had staged an intervention at the Hamptons weeks prior, pressuring Kirk to get in line with the unwavering support for Israel, during which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called him. She said that Kirk was offered a ton of money to stick to pro-Israel stances because he had been falling out of love with Israel and was on the brink of changing some of his perspectives about the Gaza war. Owens framed these allegations, which Newsweek is unable to verify, as critical questions that others were afraid to ask. Ackman has strenuously denied specific claims of an intervention, as have others, including Babylon B CEO. No, this is all the shit. We just went over this. No, this is not them just asking questions. This is them literally doing the thing that I just said she should have done. No, this is not them just asking questions. This is them literally doing everything that I just said she should be doing, is explaining why she doesn't believe it, or debunking it, or talking about why it's not credible, and then moving on. But she doesn't do that. She says, I don't believe this. I'm not saying that this is the case. And then she keeps pouring on, acting like it's possibly true. However, other prominent conservative commentators such as Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly agreed that while Kirk was a strong supporter of Israel, his views on foreign policy were evolving, as Carlson said in his podcast episode last Wednesday. They have each claimed to varying degrees that Kirk was under some kind of pressure over his changing stance, without specifying who or what was placing this pressure on him. Dylan said that Kirk said at the Hamptons retreat that he felt we aren't really free to voice criticism of Israel. So yeah, she She has said numerous times that his donors are pressuring him, that she does know this, that she does believe this, and she hasn't said where she's getting it from. I'm not reaching. She's just a fucking lying piece of shit. And you're buying it for some reason because you're not smart enough to think critically about this stuff or something. But this is blatant lies. This is just fucking lying. If you're not able to see it, I can't sit here and just like walk you through each and every fucking claim the whole time. But this is a fucking lie. I've explained it. I've been pretty clear. I've spent about 10 minutes now just focusing on your confusion. I got to be able to get through this stuff. So
I agreed with him on that. But for the most part, I saw him constantly defending Israel. It has now gotten to a point where the ongoing slaughter in Gaza is too difficult to defend. So I think he was starting to find himself in a very uncomfortable position where you have the donors pressuring him to continue defending Israel at any and all costs. But you also have young conservatives who see what's going on, and they're moving further and further away from being as supportive toward Israel as conservatives traditionally have been. Okay, so at this point, honestly, I lost patience. And the reason why I lost patience is because of exactly what you heard in that video. We're having a conversation. We are discussing what various people are saying, what various reports are alleging. You have to get through the presentation of the story and what the various people are saying before we can all weigh in on what we think and what our analysis is.
they were weighing in, though. They were weighing in and they were giving analysis the entire time. It just wasn't what it is that we're saying that you ought to have done. You didn't do it. You did weigh in, you did talk about it, you did give your perspectives, but after each and every single thing, after each and every single clip, you did sit there and give your fucking analysis afterwards.
But we never even got there. Okay, Amy is trying to present everything. As she's trying to present everything, she keeps getting interrupted. Jillian already has in her mind what all of us think about all of these issues without ever hearing what we think about any of these issues. And when I heard her look at Lindy, who I have gotten into many arguments, heated arguments with, when she looked at Lindy and said, I told you I didn't want to talk about this, and if you did talk about it, I was going to rip you apart. That kind of threat is unacceptable. It just is.
Yeah, she meant it was a physical threat, obviously. Yes. That's what it was.
I have had all sorts of moments on that show because of the fact that I have many disagreements. The whole point of that panel is to have various perspectives represented. We get into debates all the time. There have been moments where I have felt disrespected, not by Jillian, to be fair. And there have been moments where it's been, 3 versus 1, or, in the case of Adam Sosnick joining us, it was, basically 3 versus 1 because Amy wasn't really attacking me as we were debating Israel. But I never threatened anybody, and I never told anyone that I'm going to rip them apart. So at this point, I lose my patience, and I want to clear the air because I'm still at this moment under the impression that Jillian is conflating 2 different stories, okay? The conspiracy about Israel allegedly assassinating Charlie Kirk, which is ridiculous, and then the other story about the pressure that Charlie Kirk was facing.
And the fact that they didn't believe the stories about who they arrested for the Charlie Kirk shooting, and that this didn't make sense, and that this didn't align, and that they think Kash Patel and them are lying about the text messages and the notes written and all the evidence. And
so I attempted to clear the air. Get a load of this.
There are 2 things being conflated right now. There are conspiracy theorists who think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They have yet to provide a shred of evidence proving that. Done. End of story.
We're not talking about that.
I am talking about something entirely different.
Talking about that.
No, we're not. Hold on.
they were talking about it. They were literally just talking about it. That was the last thing that they pulled up, was the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu was trying to pay him money.
Finish my thought. Okay, the real issue here is that before most people even knew that Charlie Kirk was dead, you have Netanyahu giving multiple interviews talking about how, using the moment for his own political purposes, like the fool that he is. Let me finish my point.
Him killing Charlie Kirk.
Did I not just?
said that.
I literally
so
just
now we're just gonna make
Let me finish my point, Jillian, because none of us can finish the damn point without someone else jumping down your throat. I don't think that Israel killed him because there's no evidence of that. But I had a problem with Netanyahu exploiting an assassination in this country for his own political means and purpose.
Again, wasn't even brought up. Wasn't even brought up. Wasn't. She acts like this was the entire point. This is our whole point. This is all we're saying. They were, what is it? They started this at about 30 minutes in, and Jillian walked off at 58 minutes. So 30 minutes. 30 minutes in, they had not mentioned this, had not been brought up. Not a word was said about it. And then she acts like this was her whole point. This is all we're saying. This is all we're saying. That's it. 30 minutes.
And lying about the nature of his relationship with Charlie Kirk.
I cleared the air. Very specific. I repeated twice in the video you just saw that I don't think Israel is behind Charlie Kirk's assassination. Okay, but things still got out of control after that point. And it's just, I don't understand it. Well, actually now, thinking about this in retrospect, I do understand it. So at this point, in my opinion, I just think what Netanyahu did, like before most people even realized that Charlie Kirk was already pronounced dead, like the same minutes that Trump announced that Charlie Kirk had passed, you have Netanyahu doing some of the most detestable garbage commentary about who he believes killed Charlie Kirk. Okay, he goes on Fox News. I want you to take a look at that video. This is what I was referring to.
He certainly didn't invite the violence, the horrible violence that tried to silence.
This was the whole point. They didn't even make it part of the segment, but this was the whole point, is that they didn't like that he said this. It was the whole point. This is all that they were saying, guys.
Him. And you know, this is a worldwide problem. The people on the on the extremes, the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and their union with the ultra progressives, they often speak about human rights. They speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies. Whether it's President Trump, who's been almost assassinated twice, or they try to kill me here too.
So let me understand something. It is so below the belt and so unacceptable to...
Weird as fuck to insert Islam into this. Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it weird to just go and grab some group that you love to insert into every single little issue and then just throw them in there? Isn't that strange? Isn't that odd behavior, guys? Poof. Thank goodness Anna is here to call that type of behavior out. Thank goodness. Anna, she is not okay with that sort of behavior. You can't just take the group of people that you have an issue with and just insert them every single time something happens and start blaming them for something. It's ridiculous. Who would do such a thing?
Prematurely blame Israel for an assassination when there's no evidence. And I agree with that take. How is it okay for the prime minister? This isn't just some random person online. This isn't some rando conspiracy theorist on X. This is the prime minister of Israel exploiting a tragic moment in American history for his own political purposes to spread hate and propaganda about Muslims. Because God forbid the leader of Israel ever miss an opportunity to exploit a tragedy in the United States for his own purposes, as he did in the aftermath of 9/11, by the way. This is who Netanyahu is. I am never, ever going to be silenced by anyone in calling out how...
Look, no one in chat is a fan of Anna, nor am I defending her, but she has every right to criticize Israel as much as she wants. You know what? You're right. I can't believe people stopped her from criticizing Israel. STV Philly, you're so right. That's the thing. That's it. You're so right. My bad for calling her out. While none of us disagree with her, we shouldn't voice that disagreement, because then we're going to stop her from being allowed to disagree with Israel. We're not allowed to disagree with her, because if we do, then she's not allowed to disagree with Israel. That makes sense. Read half the chat and pretend that's my point. Okay. She has every right to criticize Israel as much as she wants. Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Megyn Kelly are serious voices. Well, what do you mean that's all you're saying? You're half an hour in, like 10 different clips in. You never mentioned that. That was never brought up. What do you mean that's all you're saying? That doesn't make sense. That's fucking retarded. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. That's all you're saying. That was never brought up. And nothing that you brought up is in the least but attached to Benjamin Netanyahu blaming Muslims for this. It's not in the least bit attached to that. So it's but the main thing that I was criticizing the entire time, and not just that I just said this at the end, this is what I said before I started playing the clip. This is what I said maybe 20 times going through the clip. This is what I said at the end of the clip. So I didn't just pull Anna Kasparian and just say out of nowhere, well, my real issue is that they say that they're not allowed to criticize Israel. No, I said this before it. I said it in the middle of it 20 fucking times. I've said it over and over afterwards, is that they keep saying they're not allowed to criticize Israel. This is that they keep playing this victim game, that if people criticize their reporting and criticize the way that they report it, that they always turn around and make this about the fact that they're not allowed to criticize Israel.
Detestable and disgusting that was. Now, if Jillian disagrees with me on that, she could have had a conversation about it, but that's not what happened. This is what happened.
Because Charlie Kirk didn't like Netanyahu, just like any warm-blooded American shouldn't. Netanyahu is a bad guy. And he wanted to make it seem like, no, we were all great. We were good. We had a great relationship. Little did we know behind the scenes, there was a lot of pressure toward
ends up being about how do we bash Israel. This is not for me. I'm not interested in this.
Okay,
I love you guys.
I'm
sorry.
Let's be good. Let's be good about precious Israel. Let the country committing a genocide. Yeah.
Yeah, see, she keeps acting like she's defending Israel, and that's just not what was happening. She didn't defend Israel at any point throughout this.
Okay.
Zero. I think you guys are great. I fundamentally disagree with you about like every show doing this. I'm sorry.
Cool. So can we continue the conversation?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
You wanted to do it anyway. Let's
finish the last topic.
All right.
All right.
Wow. Okay, guys. So, again, to clarify, I don't think Israel did it.
I'm sorry. It is not some angelic country. It's a foreign country, and we have the right to be as critical of a foreign country as we want. We have the right to be as critical of our own country.
Yeah, and see, she uses this as a shield every single time to say, oh, we have the right to be critical of Israel. Nobody's arguing that you don't have that right. Nobody is saying this. This is so ridiculous.
As we want.
That's my take. And
That's
upon
my take.
reflecting on that moment and the fact that the actual lead host of the show quit the show live on air because she's so offended that we're critical of Israel, that was not only unprofessional, it was disrespectful to everyone that was involved in producing the show, working on the show. I traveled from Los Angeles to Florida to host the show. That was disrespectful beyond words, unprofessional beyond words, period. That was basically taking a big crap on all of us live on air because she allegedly doesn't like that we're too critical of Israel. Let me just say something. I will be as critical of Israel or any country as I want.
Again, she never said that. She never said that she didn't like that you were being critical of Israel. This never happened. This person is nuts. She is a nut job. She is a fucking crazy person.
We have a production meeting prior to every taping, every live show. She's part of those production meetings where we decide what the stories are. I take detailed notes to make sure that we're all on the same page. We all know what we're going to discuss. At no point during that production meeting did she push back on the idea of discussing this particular topic. The day before the show, as she typically likes to do, she tried to change the entire rundown, or at least add some weird Islamophobic story about how like, oh, there's a Muslim person or a Muslim leader in Texas or something who is going to Muslim-owned grocery stores and calling them out for their hypocrisy because they're selling pork items. I don't care. I mean, you have conservatives protesting abortion in front of abortion clinics. This is America. Wakey, wakey. This is what religious liberty is. Religious people get to protest, things that they don't agree with as it pertains to their religious doctrine. But some weird hyper-local story that's specifically meant to demonize Muslims, no, she wanted to do a quick rapid fire round where we talk about those stories without any debate. And I said, no, that's a story that's worthy of debate. So we didn't add it, literally a day before our show. And what she said there, it was just so clear. It wasn't about.
If it was so clear, how the hell are you so confused? If it was so clear, how are you so confused on what it was that she was saying? it wasn't clear. It wasn't, or sorry, it was clear to everybody else, just to be clear. It was clear to everybody with a brain. It was clear that she was saying that you guys didn't have evidence for the things that you were presenting, that you were not actually breaking these down, that you were presenting them irresponsibly. This is pretty clear what it is that she said. For you to keep saying that you have the right to criticize Israel is just the most irrelevant part of this. Nobody said otherwise. I've never seen anybody say that nobody's allowed to criticize Israel. Never seen anybody say it. It seems to be the most common argument from these people. Yet I've never heard anyone ever make that argument that you're not allowed to criticize Israel.
Reporting what was correct, what was incorrect, what had actual evidence behind it, what didn't have evidence behind it. She just didn't like that we were being too critical of Israel. A few weeks ago, she was trying to encourage me to sign on to a debate on the show with Coleman Hughes, who had just put out a piece denying that there's mass starvation in Gaza. Okay, when you walk off the show because your feelings are hurt and you're the main host of the show, that demonstrates a level of disregard and unprofessionalism that I'm not gonna stay silent about. And to twist our words and make it appear as though we're trying to draw a connection between Charlie Kirk's assassination and Israel is ridiculous, because literally no one did that. And today, there's even more evidence backing up what I believe is credible, that Charlie Kirk was in fact dealing with a lot of backlash because he's being inclusive of voices who are critical of Israel. And he felt afraid to be critical of Israel himself, as you're about to hear in this next clip. So today, Kirk's producer, Andrew Colvett, clarified that, yeah, Charlie Kirk was getting backlash and he was pretty irritated by it.
Charlie's position on Israel was very clear. I like them more than I like Hamas. I just wish I was free to criticize Israel and not be labeled an anti-Semite, because I can criticize my own government and not be called anti-American.
Right.
But why do I have more freedom to do that and not criticize, a foreign government? And he was really upset that there was this sort of clampdown on the freedom of expression, the freedom of ideas, free speech when it came to a foreign government. And I will say this.
Where is this? Again, where is this that people aren't allowed to criticize Israel? Where is this? Where is this happening? I all the time, like, there's always people who come in and they start like throwing me like, well, what about the what is it called? Like anti BDS laws? What about those? Like, that's not the same thing. Those are for like corporations and companies and especially foreign businesses and crap. Like, it's about you not being allowed to like boycott foreign interests where we have like allies and like trade agreements and there's so much more on the line there. Charlie Kirk literally said that. He literally said what? You literally said what? He said that people aren't allowed to criticize Israel. He said that he can't criticize Israel without being labeled anti-Semitic. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm arguing against. What do you mean? That's what I'm talking about right now. That's what I'm saying is a bullshit fucking argument. That I'm saying I've never heard somebody actually say you're not allowed to criticize Israel. But people who have no, like, they're not logical enough to actually form coherent arguments, those people, instead of actually saying, oh, they're criticizing the arguments that I'm making, they're not saying I'm not allowed to criticize Israel. They're saying the way that I'm criticizing Israel is factually wrong or incorrect or irresponsible or so. But they're not. Nobody ever says you're not allowed to criticize Israel. That's not a fucking argument. But that is all they ever argue against. That's it. That's all they'll ever argue against. Why? Because they can't justify their arguments. Because they can't defend their arguments. Because they're incapable of actually making their arguments make sense. They will never, ever do it. They will just play victims. Oh, I'm not allowed. Oh, they're stopping me. Oh, they're censoring me. I am so oppressed. Look at me being so oppressed. I'm not allowed. But nobody's saying you're not allowed. Nobody's stopping you. This isn't happening.
He felt like he had earned the right as a friend of the Jewish people over the years and all of the things that he had done. He felt like his bona fides in that respect were unassailable and that he should have the freedom to say, hey, it's time to end the war. Hey, it's time to stop the killing. But, when with Tucker, for example, yeah, I mean, we took some pushback. We lost some donors. And what's interesting is it wasn't necessarily Jewish donors.
Yeah, because Zionists include evangelicals. This is not about Jews, as I've said a billion times before. There is also an intentional conflation of Israel and Jewish people in general. And that's done intentionally to smear anyone who dares to be critical of Israel as an anti-Semite. If you are critical—
This is so fucking stupid. This is so stupid. This is so disingenuous. She is a fucking nut job, dude. That she does push anti-Semitic ideas, anti-Semitic arguments. Again, I don't know that she's anti-Semitic, but she's convincing me. The more she talks, the more she convinces me.
Of a government, it doesn't mean that you hate the people of that country. If you are critical of a government that refers to Israel as a Jewish state, it doesn't mean that you are anti-Semitic or hate Jewish people. It means that you have a problem with the conduct of that government.
Yes, again, she's never going to show somebody saying, you're not allowed to criticize Israel. She will never show somebody saying this because nobody ever says it. She's just going to show a bunch of other people who are victims, who are professional victims running around saying, oh, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to criticize Israel. Why am I not allowed? Why won't they let me?
And no one's ever going to silence me about that. Ever. Period. I'm going to tell the truth, even if it comes at a significant cost to my career, Jillian, as you voiced some concern about. Finally, one more point that I want to bring up. Today it was reported that, and this is by Max Blumenthal, by the way, he's naming names. Ultra-Zionist billionaire Robert Shillman, I kid you not, that is his name, was one of Charlie Kirk's most committed donors. But as Kirk fell under attack for his increasingly critical Israel views during his final weeks, sources say Shillman ended funding for Turning Point USA. This is a legitimate story that has legitimate receipts.
Tom, nobody is ever going to say, hey, you can't criticize Israel. The way they do it is by calling you anti-Semitic. Okay, so these are literal neo-Nazi arguments, okay? I've been dealing with this for as long as I've been online debating, from Groypers, from alt-righters, from all of these people, from, literally everybody, okay? This is the same exact argument that I got from them when we would talk about whether or not systemic racism exists, right? And they would say, I'm not allowed to even criticize black people. You're not even allowed to say the word black anymore. You're not even allowed. You're not allowed to talk about problems in the black community. And that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that, like, black people sometimes have problems in the community. But that's not ever all they're saying. People like me who do give criticisms of the black community, who do criticize Israel, who do say these things. I've never called a fucking anti-Semite. It just never happens for me somehow. It just never fucking happens. But for all of these people who are constantly using the same rhetoric and pushing the same fucking talking points, they're all somehow called anti-Semitic all the time. And this is just, it just so happens to be the case. I'm sorry, but like the arguments that she's making are anti-Semitic arguments. The things that she's pushing, the things that she's bolstering, these are anti-Semitic arguments. They are. The arguments are anti-Semitic. It's not that, oh, I'm just going to call you an anti-Semite. No, I'm saying the arguments are anti-Semitic. And obviously, if you are making anti-Semitic arguments and pushing anti-Semitic conspiracy theories all the fucking time, yeah, over time, people are going to be more and more convinced that you're an anti-Semite. Yes, of course. That is pretty clear. That's normal. That's what they ought to do. But when all of these people are pushing these ideas about race realism and IQ and 1350 and ethno states and all of this shit, and then turning around, like, I'm not even allowed to say anything about black people. It's not fair. I'm not even allowed to say the word black without people calling me a racist. It's bullshit. It's just they want to be victims so badly.
Names have been named. And it is entirely separate from conspiracy theories involving Israel allegedly assassinating Charlie Kirk, which again is spurious and does not have any evidence to back it up. So if anyone dares to say that I believe in that conspiracy theory, if anyone dares to smear me, I want to be very clear right now in stating what I actually believe. And I don't want anyone to fall for what I believe is an intentional conflation of a ridiculous conspiracy theory with something that actually has some credibility behind it.
It doesn't have credibility behind it. It doesn't. You're quoting Max Blumenthal. Holy shit. You're quoting Candace Owens. You're quoting all of these random fucking people. These do not have credibility behind them.